Conspiracy theories are a strange phenomenon that have proven to be popular throughout the United States. They're so common that as of 2020, more than 50% of Americans believed in at least one conspiracy. One such conspiracy is of the existence of the Lemurians, and how they're described as a mysterious race of people believed to exist by many across the globe. One may assume by the name that these people are simply a strange race of lemur people. And although the name might have relation to those fuzzy mammals, Lemurians are supposedly a race of much more advanced and complex entities according to their believers. So, how did people come to believe in Lemurians? To understand that, we have to go back to where it started. It all started with the idea that there was a connecting landmass between India and Madagascar that sunk into the ocean. And the man who proposed such a crazy idea? His name was Philip Schlater. He was a known zoologist and lawyer who lived from 1829 to 1913. His logic was pretty sound. He proposed the existence of the landmass in 1864 in an attempt to explain the presence of lemur fossils in Madagascar. Lemuria had simple beginnings. Theories of its existence were created solely to explain aspects of biogeography that weren't understood at the time. Schlater's ideas about the existence of Lemuria were partially proven by scientists in the modern era. An analysis of geographical data and tectonic plates suggests that about 84 million years ago an island did in fact descend into the Indian Ocean. However, due to key differences in other details, such as the fact that lemurs didn't evolve from any human race, scientists named that island Mauritius instead. The Kerguelen Plateau in Zealandia are other real examples of such sunken land masses. Once people began questioning what happened in Lemuria and what sort of creatures lived there, the creation of true conspiracy was underway. There's a lot of theosophy surrounding Lemuria and the Lemurian people, which basically means that there are a lot of different philosophical beliefs surrounding this one belief of Lemurian people, which hold these beings to a standard of like a god to their believers. There are many different accounts from Lemurian believers as to why the landmass sunk. We don't know where the land was lost because so many of these stories don't line up with each other. James Churchward was an influential early writer on the Lemurians who wrote multiple books such as The Lost Continent of Mu. Sounding of something straight from the fiction section, that book is described as the story of Churchward's search for the lost continent, from the vaults of an Indian temple to the four corners of the world. These books perpetuated the beliefs in Lemurians. Now to get into some general myths about this Lemurian society. There are many interpretations of Lemurians. Some believe that they are shapeshifters, being able to turn into whales, dolphins, and merpeople, because that is how they explain where the majority of their civilization went to after Lemuria sunk. Stone people are originally a Native American belief that the rocks and minerals on this planet are part of the Ancient Ones. They contain consciousness and share their wisdom with us generously. Shamans and healers believe in the same thing. They also believe that due to their natural connection with the Ancient Ones, certain crystals can give us wisdom to Lemurian societies. They believe that these crystals, also known as starseeds, can heal and improve our species. A popular shaman saying that these crystals are programmed with the consciousness of ancient Lemuria, and that by even wearing these quartz, we could stimulate these latent human abilities, such as telepathy, and help us access and develop them once again. Schlater started the belief that on this lost continent, Lemurians did exist. But what I didn't mention earlier is that he began the idea that they're a race of 15-foot-tall, four-armed superhumans as he studied the strange fossils from that area. Geoffroy St. Hilaire was a French scientist who studied animals, their anatomy, and their embryos. He believed in these ideas of evolution since before Darwinism was theorized, which is why he spent his time studying embryos to try to intervene in synthetically evolved animals. Darwinism is the idea of evolution through natural selection. It was a relatively new concept during the beginning of the Lemurian conspiracy, which is why people believe that there are 7 different possible types of people. Each instantation of humanity became known as a root race, and the entire history of humanity is the story of the progress of our species through 7 stages of our 7 root races. We today live in the 5th stage. During the Lemurian Age, or the 3rd root race, humans supposedly interbred with the most developed members of the animal kingdom. They were huge ape-like creatures that existed on Mars, Earth, and Mercury. Genes from these developed members of the animal kingdom created the Lemurian root race. Theorized that some Lemurians branched off from their evolutional pattern, which explains why there's still some Lemurians in existence to this day. A similar belief to that of Lemurian conspiracy is that of the Kumari Kandam. The Kumari Kandam is so similar, in fact, that it is believed to be a sunken landmass in the exact same place as Lemuria. This is a belief that comes from the Tamil people, who are a real ethnic group from South Asia with a recorded history going back more than 2 millennia. Their placement in history are so similar because it was after the discovery of Lemuria that the Tamil people began connecting it to their own Pandyan legends of lands lost to the ocean, as described in ancient Tamil and Sanskrit literature. According to these writers, an ancient Tamil civilization existed on Lemuria before it was lost to the sea in a catastrophe. Devanya Panavar is the Tamil writer who started these claims that Lemuria is actually the mythical Tamil land, Kumari Kandam, and his naming of the landmass after a female Hindi goddess called Kanya Kumari may have been a sign of early gender equality. The Tamil people still see this land as the cradle of society, with another name for it being the land of the maiden. Some major interest points of the Lemurian conspiracy are of the Australian and Mount Shasta beliefs surrounding it. In Australia, a mystic named Helena Blavatsky founded the Theosophical Society in 1875, which allowed her to spread information about the Lemurians. The Australian belief is very similar to the mainstream conspiracy, but also adds on the idea that Australian people are just some hybrid between normal humans and Lemurians. Blavatsky theorized that Australia was just a remnant inland region of Lemuria, and because of this, the Lemurians bred with animals and other humans to create the Australian people as we see them today. Lemurian conspiracy became like a pseudo-history, meaning that historians viewed it as a distortion of the historical record and purely superstitious. On the other hand, the Mount Shasta branch of the Lemurian belief started with author Frederick Spencer Oliver. He claimed that the Lemurians were living inside of Mount Shasta, and he said that he would occasionally see them out in white robes. Occultist Harvey Spencer Lewis and author Guy Warren Ballard are among many other believers who published books to spread more information about the Lemurians inside of Mount Shasta. In general, Mount Shasta seems to be a hotspot for all sorts of myths and legends. The Klamath Indians are responsible for some of the beliefs in this area. One of their more popular legends is of Skell and Lau. In Klamath myth, Lau Yaina is the god of the underworld and is in control of the volcano Mount Mazama. Lau fell in love with the Klamath chief's daughter, who completely rejected him. Enraged by the rejection, he tried to destroy the Klamath people with the curse of fire. Knowing of this, the Klamath Indian chief sought help from Skell, who is the master of all the animals that lived on Earth, and also in love with the chief's daughter. Because of this, Skell agrees to help, descending to Mount Shasta to stop Lau in a battle of epic proportions. They fought, fleeing stone, fire, and magma, covering the sky in ash. When the battle eventually ended, it ended in Skell's favor. He decapitated Lau, leaving the scraps of his body for the children who followed him to feed on, and the tears they cried to mourn him eventually formed Crater Lake. A lot of myths and conspiracies in general, such as this one, take unique land formations and seem to create very interesting and unique stories surrounding them. For this reason, many conspiracies are very popular beyond their believers. Some people are extremely devoted to their beliefs in the Lemurian. Lowell Johnson is a relatively recent yet extremely prominent believer in the Lemurians. His accounts of the Lemurians and their home in the mountain Telos are so in-depth that they couldn't be skipped over. He claims to have had personal accounts with the Lemurians, and he's been on the news multiple times sharing his story. At this point, it's practically his life's work. Throughout his blog, as well as through his news interviews, he describes his accounts with the Lemurians in Mount Shasta. He says a tall, blonde man named Alex appeared to him and offered to show him Telos. He agreed, and then he boarded a levitating platform as Alex gave him a tour of the underground city. Alex took him around, showing him the buildings and White Pyramid in the middle, along with the tour of the different levels. He shared with one news source many illustrations of what they should look like. In his beliefs, he introduces this new idea that Lemurians are in a different level of existence than us entirely. He says that he himself is one of the very few people with fifth-dimensional awareness, and that when humans ascend into fifth-dimensional awareness, the Lemurians would make themselves known to us, where we could exchange all manner of experiences and knowledge from both realms that would benefit all. We believe his story is very unique and interesting, regardless of whether or not you believe in his theories and ambitions. As we've mentioned throughout the video, due to there being mixed accounts of where Lemurians actually are, as well as no uniform description of what Lemurians actually are. The lack of a uniform description and evidence is very telling that they're very likely unreal. We don't know whether they're supposed to be in the Indian Ocean or in Mount Shasta, and we also don't know whether they're 15-foot-tall four-armed super beasts or simply a more advanced civilization. To wrap all this up, it is safe to say that our group believes that this conspiracy is very untrue. There is very little scientific evidence of the existence of Lemurians besides a few personal accounts, and there's no scientific evidence to prove the existence of third root race people in general. Conspiracy theories are captivating to so many people because they provide explanations for real-world events that people want to believe more than the truth, especially when official explanations of the truth may feel inadequate to them. People tend to search for some sort of understanding in their day-to-day lives, and it can motivate certain people to do something that makes them feel important, even if it seems ridiculous to others.